everyone, and welcome to the latest and presumably last review of Marvel's What If animated series on Disney Plus. I hope you're all doing well this morning. Just a note that I had to be reminded by something else that I saw on the internet that the What If episode was out today, because honestly, the last couple of episodes made such little impact in my brain that I kind of forgot that that was today. And I also didn't realize this was the last episode, which doesn't make much sense in a way, but we'll get to that momentarily. But before that, who is joining me this morning for this wonderful review? Birgid, good morning. Mark S., good morning. John Miller, good morning. Robert Pincus, good morning. I can get away with adding some good mornings because most everybody's asleep still, if they're wise. So good morning to you all. All right, so what do we begin with? Well, we begin kind of where we began, with Captain Carter essentially just swapped out for Steve Rogers in the Winter Soldier. She's wearing her stealth suit version of her suit, and she's got her shield, and they're going to be attacking the Lumerian Star, just like in Winter Soldier. And so we get a little banter between her and Black Widow. Now, if you remember, the last time we saw Captain Carter, she had been somehow space stone time teleported from World War II to the modern day, which doesn't make any sense by any established rules of the Marvel Universe, but hey, whatever. So she was the not time frozen in time Captain America. And so conceivably, since the point at which she appeared in, I guess, the Avengers movie, now we're in Winter Soldier, and she has a relationship with Black Widow. This will become important later on in the story, because it's very important that they know each other to make later on meetup make any sense whatsoever. Anyway, so they're getting ready to attack the ship. We got an appearance by Frank Grillo as Rumlow. And then it basically proceeds as you would from the Winter Soldier movie. She jumps off the ship into the water. She fights Batroc, who I believe is actually voiced by the guy who plays Batroc, George St. Pierre, I think his name is. I saw his name in the credits, so I'm assuming so. His animated version of himself looks decidedly different from the movie version, so I wasn't quite sure if I was seeing some kind of like alternate universe version of Batroc for this sake. But anyway, so they fight, and then all of a sudden, the Watcher is there. And she says, "Captain Carter, the soldier lost in time, you have been chosen." Because you see, the Watcher is now the multi-universe version of Nick Fury, and he's putting a team together, if you can believe it. So she is chosen. Then we jump to the universe where we saw at the end of the Star Panther episode, where Peter Quill, who was not Star-Lord in that universe, is being visited by Ego, who has now shown up to, I guess, turn Peter into a battery. When I had thought the idea was that he was going to elevate his son to divinehood or something and only use him as a battery when he defied him. But I guess in the 10 minutes since he appeared at the Dairy Queen, he defied him, and now he's going to like just suck the life out of him, I guess. Anyway, unless I'm totally forgetting the plot points in the Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Anyway, so Star Panther shows up to save Peter Quill, and then Star Panther is recruited by the Watcher into the Guardians of the Multiverse. Now, here's where my brain took a bit of a vacation for a second, and I thought, did I miss an episode? Did I miss something? Because we jump over to, I forget the name of the realm or whatever, but it's from Infinity War, the place where Thor goes to forge Stormbringer, his secondary hammer axe thing. And so here's the dwarf guy, Peter Dinklage-ish. But here we have Warrior Gamora with Thanos's helicopter blade sword and super duper Tony Stark and super duper Iron Man armor. And I was like, did I miss an episode of What If? So I paused the show here to go back to make sure they didn't release like 2 episodes as the season finale, right? I didn't just skip over something. No, we suddenly have Warrior Super Gamora. And for the life of me, if this was mentioned or alluded to in some previous episode, I have no idea because when the Watcher shows up, he says Gamora is the Thanos Slayer. And I'm like, well, Thanos was part of Star-Lord's team in the Star Panther episode, and he wasn't a threat because he gave up on his whole I'm going to kill the universe thing. So this has to be a completely separate universe where I have absolutely no idea or no point of reference. So either there was an episode that they cut, or there was a storyline they didn't pursue, or I am just completely forgetting something in the course of this series. But anyway, so Watcher shows up to recruit a character that, so far as I know, we've never met before, and that is Super Gamora. I'm just going to call her to differentiate. Gamora have been chosen. Like, who, from where, why? Anyway, then he goes off to Wakanda, where Killmonger took over everything. Because, when you're putting together your super team, you want a maniacal, double-crossing mass murderer on your side. The logic of that makes no sense, except for one particular plot point that we will get to inevitably. The title of this stream might give that away as to why you would recruit this character into this team for this story. But anyway, so he recruits a Killmonger. Then he goes to Vegas, where Thor is now fighting all the Ultron bots that we saw presumably coming into the world at the end of the Thor episode, though somehow Ultron has not yet destroyed this world, even though he had all the Infinity Stones. Anyway, so Thor's fighting all the robots. The Watcher's like, Thor, Odinson, Crown Prince of Ask, and Thor's like, I'm killing you, I'm killing you. And the Watcher's like, it's comedy, you guys. Because this Thor is slapstick Thor, as you can see from his facial expression here. So anyway, he's grabbed by the Watcher, and they're all teleported to the pub from Captain America, where all the Howling Commandos had a drink or 3 in the Captain America movie. Where presumably Captain Carter did too, I think, in the Captain Carter episode. And they're all in this pub, and they're all met by Doctor Strange, evil Doctor Strange, super evil Doctor Strange, because he helped the Watcher put together this team. And so they lay out the problem to these strangers to one another. It's like, aha, the Ultron is going to destroy everything, and it's gonna make everything blow up. And you guys are the guardians of the multiverse, the Watcher says. And in the meantime, Killmonger is taking a really hard look at this Ultron skull thing that Thor brought with him as he was teleported to the pub. We'll get to that later-ish. Anyway, so they go through here's what the thing is now, and this is what you need to do, and this is what you have to do to save the multiverse. And at first, I scoured eternity for one true hero. Then I saw the bigger picture. I need a team, the perfect combination of skills and experience that alone will triumph. Including you, evil serial killer guy. But anyway, so then they go over making a plan or commiserating, and we get some, I don't know, character building type comedy and back and forth. You are the guardians of the multiverse. Oh boy. Let's see. Go into the chat real quick. John Miller. So we don't get Zombie World Parker or Killer Ant-Man. Zombies will have a brief cameo, but no, you don't get any of the other heroes we saw. Mike Savage, Blarg. John Miller, you would think you would want as much help as you can get. Now, I get it. But this is what we got. We got these guys. So anyway, the next few minutes are them just sort of sitting around and talking about what they're going to do. Like, mind telling us what we're up against? And then they go over what we already know from the previous episode. Ultron is slowly destroying and or taking over all of the multiverse. He has the Infinity Stones. We have to get the Infinity Stones. And what are we going to do with the Infinity Stones once we have them? And this is a suicide mission, says Killmonger. Uh-huh. And then Thor has to go into his comedic, is there a universe of Chinese food that has alternate dimension delivery? Because my tummy is growling. Now, just as a note, I have seen clips of scenes from Ghostbusters 2016. Okay. And the only reason I bring that up is because Chris Hemsworth was in that movie. And what few facts I know about that movie is that their headquarters in that movie was situated above a Chinese restaurant. And I believe there was some Chinese food jokes throughout that movie. And so I can't help but wonder, is this some kind of weird Alterverse callback to that? I don't know. I'm just a big nerd. Never mind me. So they have Chinese food from alternate Chinese food delivery dimension. And then here's where we get this bit. And this is important. So Super Gamora, who we've never met before this episode, she knows what to do with the stones after they recover them, because their plan is to steal the stones from Ultron, get them away from him, and then she has a magical device. Can I have it brought up here? Yes, a magical device, which is like, it's the Infinity Stone Crusher or something. Okay. Now remember this. She has a device capable of destroying Infinity Stones. All right, so just remember that. It'll be important later. Anyway, so we're still talking about the plan. And then they go to, I don't know, a planet somewhere in some dimension, and they're kind of camping out. And so evil Doctor Strange is casting all of these wards and these spells, and they're kind of just sitting there, again, commiserating. Evil Doctor Strange loses control of his squid evil self for a second, because he's still struggling with all of the evilness that he's absorbed over the hundreds of years that he was working to save his lost love's life in the Doctor Strange episode. Yeah, there you go. Tentacle hand. Tentacle hand is fun. And so they're just talking, and then, you know, Doctor Strange tells her about the real Captain America and Steve Rogers, and she's like, Steve Rogers is Captain America. Now that would be a sight to see. Calling back to her in the movie, seeing him all shirtless and buff. And then there's this bit, which is very brief, where Killmonger is again playing with this Ultron skull that for some reason Thor and them have brought with them on their journey for no reason. There is no reason why this Ultron skull is still with the group, except for plot convenience, which we will get to eventually. Anyway, so he's examining this Yorick sort of Ultron skull and looking at it, and everybody's like, what's up with that guy? We never had a conversation prior to this between T'Challa and Killmonger, because even though they are from different universes, they both share a nation in common and a quasi-bloodline, but that never comes up until the very end of the episode, which is bizarre. Anyway, so they're drinking and being merry before they all die kind of thing, and there's just some goofy, meaningless conversation between them that's more slapstick, and then Ultron shows up. So Super Ultron shows up for some reason. Why he comes to this particular planet at this particular time, don't know. Just because they were waiting there, I guess. And Thor says, well, I did warn you that I tend to attract trouble. So I guess just Thor being there karmically brought Ultron there. Anyway, so without actually having done anything, Ultron finds them. And now we start a long battle montage. I will try to do this in summary because it's all very kind of boring. Anyway, so they get ready to fight Ultron. And before all this, Strange casts some crazy wards all over the heroes. So they have this like invisible super duper suit of armor around each one of them. A super duper suit of magical armor that is literally more powerful than the combined might of the Infinity Gems. as we will see. Anyway, so Thor tries to attack him with lightning, doesn't work. Ultron drops a mountain on them. They survive because they have these super wards on them. See, there's your super wards, big glowing bubbles of symbols and things. And Ultron's like, what? How did you survive that? And she's like, oh my gosh, not even a scratch. You have a mountain dropped on you, not even a scratch. Okay. So protection spells work really, really good. And then Strange and Thor combine to conjure a I don't know, a storm of hammers all around Ultron. And so this storm of Mjolnirs is ravaging Ultron for a minute or five here. And then we get some superhero team up action where Captain Carter, flies at him with the shield and she bashes him with the shield and then she rides a hammer back and then she lands on the ground. And then T'Challa's like, I'm going to jump on Ultron's back and start using my guns. But then Ultron throws him off. And then Doctor Strange starts to distract him with more magic and like surrounding him with a bunch of hammers. But here's the thing, T'Challa's like super thief. And Super Thief actually was able to grab the Soul Stone off of Ultron. How? I don't know. Ultron didn't notice? Guess not. So he's got the Soul Stone. All right, which apparently was necessary for the next part of the plan, which I don't think I heard anywhere in there. But anyway, so they grab the Soul Stone because they need the Soul Stone. And then Ultron's going to like just say, okay, hell with it. I'm going to destroy everything and everybody. And then only then does he notice that his Soul Stone is gone. He's like, my stone, you stole my Soul Stone? Yes, one of the, fundamental parts of your cosmic power suddenly disappears from your grasp and you don't notice it. Okay. Anyway, so then Super Ultron, it's just a bunch of fighting and talking and fighting and talking. Like nothing really happens here except that everybody's fighting and talking. So, where is it here? I need to find here we go. All right. So what happens is that in order to distract Ultron, Doctor Strange opens up a portal to the zombie dimension. How he does that, how he knows to do that, I don't know. But anyway, he opens up a portal to the zombie dimension. And Ultron is, if I can find, yes, he is buried. There it is. There's the giant stream of zombies coming out from the zombie dimension and just burying Ultron. All right. So there it is, the giant mountain of zombies. And these are all just dropped on top of Ultron. So like the entire population of, I don't know, everywhere from the zombieverse is now dropped on Ultron on this planet. And Ultron is like, he blows up the entire, pile on top of him. And he's like, that was unexpected. But that wasn't the point. The point was to bring in Zombie Scarlet Witch, because then Zombie Scarlet Witch attacks him with her super duper Zombie Scarlet Witch powers. And that distracts him for like 3 seconds. And then he kills her, and then we move on. And now we're moving through other multiverse. We move multiverses. We move from one universe to another universe. And now my mouse is failing me for some reason. That's going to be fun if this stops. Okay, so anyway, they jump to another multiverse. And what multiverse do you think that might be? Why, it's the Apocalypse Ultron 1 verse with the Mad Max Black Widow, who is now all alone. Even though at the end of the last episode, we saw that she had a companion in a Arnim Zola taken over Ultron drone. Apparently that character's gone for the moment. Hawkeye is dead. The whole world's destroyed. And she's still riding around on her motorcycle. So she suddenly meets them. And Peggy Carter is trying to like talk down the other Avengers from killing her. And so she talks to Black Widow and says, I know you in another universe. And I know that your father's name is this and your grandfather's name is this. And therefore, you can trust me because your other version of yourself trusted me. And Black Widow's like, yes, I trust you now. And so we introduce a new character to the team. Why didn't the Watcher recruit this Black Widow into the team to begin with? I don't know. Why else would we show up on this particular planet slash reality? I don't know. We just are. Thank you, Non Vitae Rex. Was Thor at least holding the Ultron skull when he teleported? Because it sounds like it was just on the ground and it was teleported because plot. No. Okay. Thor did bring the Ultron skull with him. So he was holding it after fighting a drone when the Watcher grabbed him off of Vegas. So there is a reason the skull is there in a mechanical sense. Why the Ultron skull continued to come with them after that is the part that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, but we'll get there. There's only one reason this Ultron skull has stayed with them this entire time. Anyway, so Mad Max, Black Widow, and the Guardians of the Multiverse are now a team because Captain Carter said so. So they talk it out, and now they're friends. And now Super Ultron shows up, and they're going to fight. Okay. Now remember, the Soul Stone has been separated from Ultron. And then the next several minutes is a back and forth Scooby-Doo slapstick, who's going to grab the Soul Stone first fight, where everybody gets their licks in, and they're going back and forth, and they're fighting, and they're fighting. Everybody uses their superpowers, and they're fighting to get the stone. It's entertaining in the sense that you see comic book superhero action kind of thing, but it's a little... it just feels like time filler, So you get those things where like someone just about grabs the stone and then they get knocked back or that kind of thing. Anyway, eventually, I will find it here. As you can see, it just kind of keeps going and going. Well, then suddenly Ultron remembers he has control over time itself. Because here's the thing. At multiple points during the course of this fight and everything else, Ultron seems to forget that he controls the very elements of reality, time, space, and otherwise. And conveniently, he doesn't know how to use those powers, even though he's been destroying realities and other planets for some untold amount of time to this point. But suddenly he remembers he has control over time. So he freezes time and nobody can move. And then he can just go up and grab the stone because that's what a smart supervillain would do. Thank you, Mark S. Shouldn't the Living Tribunal be pissed at Ultron? There should be a lot of things stopping Ultron from doing this. There should be a lot of mechanisms in the Marvel multiverse to stop Ultron from doing this. It should not come down to the Watcher having to break his oath, as the episode's title says, in order to do this. But you see, none of those things actually exist yet in the MCU. Because Eternity, the Living Tribunal, God, how many other cosmic entities that bring balance to everything or attempt to would be intervening here. I remember, just to go off on a nerd rant for a second, I remember back in the Secret Wars 2 series of comic books, back in the 80s, yes, that's how old I am, when the Beyonder decided that he was going to just destroy death itself. That the biggest cause of suffering in all of the universe was death, was decay, destruction, and the loss of loved ones. So he was just going to destroy death. And as he was making his decision to do this, every entity from the multiverse showed up and said, dude, do not do this. Now, for some reason, none of them had the power to stop him. I forget exactly why. They made the Beyonder just ridiculously godlike powerful. They retconned him into an Eternal later on in the or an Inhuman or something. I forget exactly later on in the continuity, which was stupid to me. But anyway, yeah, no, we don't have Eternity or Living Tribunal or Mephisto or any of the other cosmic entities that should be taking care of this stuff. Nope, none of them show up. Nothing. Anyway, thank you again, John Miller. Jurisdictions must be rough for all organizations that protect the things, or they just don't exist in the MCU yet, right? I mean, they can only operate with what they've introduced into the MCU, and trying to get into the grand cosmic scale, machinery. Probably not something they want to do at this point. Anyway, so Ultron remembers he can freeze time. he's going to grab the Soul Stone. But then Doctor Strange also remembers that he still has a Time Stone. So he plays with time and attacks Ultron with his tentacle stuff and fights Ultron in order to, distract him long enough in order that Gamora can get the Soul Stone. Okay, where is it? So she gets the Soul Stone and she puts it into her machine. Now, maybe it was mentioned. I didn't hear it, or I missed it, I suppose. But apparently this machine needs the Soul Stone to operate. So the machine that is built specifically to destroy Infinity Gems needs an Infinity Gem to work. That was the whole reason they were going after the Soul Stone this whole time, I guess. Anyway, now they have the Soul Stone in the machine that is set to kill or destroy Infinity Stones, and then this spider machine climbs on top of Ultron and starts harvesting the stones off of his body to destroy them. And it counts them all up as it, I guess, acquires them. And Ultron's being held down by magical chains because Ultron does not have access to nearly all of the power in the universe at his fingertips. So all the stones are collected, and suddenly there's a giant explosion. Oh my God, a giant explosion. And when the smoke clears, they go, did we win? And they're like, oh no, it didn't work. And Ultron says, every universe is different, each one just a fraction unique. And that suddenly reminds everybody the Infinity Stones are unique. Okay, this is the major of all the plot holes you could think of in this series so far, and especially in the last couple of episodes, and has been mentioned and asked by many people. In the Loki TV show, we were told that Infinity Stones only operate in their own universe. That Infinity Stones are unique in their ability to control the elements of reality in the universe in which they exist originally. The machine, and I can't bring up the line specifically probably in my sort of like scanning of this, but we're told that the machine Gamora brought with her is designed to destroy Infinity Stones, but can only destroy Infinity Stones from her dimension. So if Infinity Stones are unique to the dimension in which they first existed, and they cannot operate outside of that dimension that they exist in, and the machines created to destroy them cannot destroy stones that are not from the dimension the machine itself is from, how in the heck is Ultron doing any of this? How is he able to do anything outside of his own dimension with the Infinity Stones? Because if anyone with all of the Infinity Stones could just break through the reality barrier and see alternate dimensions and destroy them, take them over, manipulate them, etc., this Ultron character would not be the first or only one to think to do this. So it kind of breaks the whole reality, not only of the rules established in Loki, but the very rules they're presenting us in this episode. It makes no sense. And they never explain, like, how are the stones operating outside of Ultron's home dimension? I don't know. Just, they do. So anyway, their grand plan to capture the stones and destroy them with the stone-destroying machine has failed. Right? Okay. So, right. The Crusher was designed to destroy the stones on my world, not his. I'm glad I found that line. I wanted to make sure that was in evidence here. Because she is telling us the very rule of the multiverse that Ultron apparently is just allowed to break over and over again. So what are they going to do now? Well, Ultron's got all the stones. Doctor Strange decides to What was the thing now? Oh yeah. So Ultron's got all the stones. He's in power. He's won. Everybody's blown off to the side. But then the Black Widow spots the magic arrow. Do you remember the USB arrow from the previous episode? The USB Arnim Zola infected arrow from the previous one. You know, the arrow that was used to infect the drone, the Ultron drone that we haven't seen in this episode. So how is the virus and all the AI and everything still in this arrow if it was uploaded into that drone? I don't know. I guess it just is. So anyway, she's got the arrow with the super virus in it, and Black Widow is like, "Hey, Captain Carter, if you can distract Ultron long enough, I have an idea of how to end this with my magic MacGuffin arrow, or my Deus Ex Machina, almost literally, God in the machine." Anyway, so yeah, so they're fighting Ultron again. Fight, fight, fight. Ultron is basically getting ready to use his Kirby Crackle energy to destroy Doctor Strange as Doctor Strange is fighting against him. And then Captain Carter jumps at him from a great height. And then Black Widow fires her arrow, or gets ready to, in a very dramatic fashion, to fire the arrow. And she says, "This is for you, Clint," or something like, or "This is for Clint." And so Captain Carter is jumping very dramatically and heroically towards the Ultron as, oh, here's the Kirby Crackle. If you guys don't know what the Kirby Crackle is, it's a particular brand of illustrating energy with little bubbles and stuff like that. And it was nicknamed the Kirby Crackle because Jack Kirby was the one who used that extensively in his artwork for Marvel Comics and Cosmic Power and stuff like that. Anyway, so Captain Carter jumps on Ultron's back and pulls his head back as the arrow strikes Ultron right in his eyeball. There you go. There's an image to pause on for a second. How about that? Thank you, Mark S. Evil Doctor Strange been going to the gym, carried this team of bums. Evil Doctor Strange, the only credit I will give the story as established for that character is that he was effectively in hiding for, they said, hundreds of years, absorbing countless evil magical beings and learning every possible sorcery in the world in order to cheat death and bring his dead girlfriend back to life, or to change the course of time and everything else. That's the only credit I will give to the origin story of this Doctor Strange that even comes close to explaining how he is able to counter the power of the Infinity Gems at every turn, just conveniently. And before I forget and hear about it later, good morning, Angela Ariaga. Good morning to you. All right. Let's see. Okay, where were we? Oh, yes, the USB arrow has entered Ultron's eyeball. And this causes a, Arnim Zola now has a, I don't know what you want to call it, a psychic plane battle with Ultron in the electronic psychic plane. And so Arnim Zola, played once again by the great Toby Jones, starts arguing with Ultron over control of this body. There's only one direction you can see this going, of course. Why Black Widow did not think of the direction this could go just to stop Ultron. So you want to replace one megalomaniacal tyrant with Infinity Stones with a different megalomaniacal tyrant with Infinity Stones. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Anyway, so somehow the analog 20th century AI of Arnim Zola is able to defeat Infinity Gem enhanced, Tony Stark built, on the basis of Jarvis and the Ultron, everything else. He's able to defeat Ultron in the electronic mental plane. Because, I guess, even though Ultron still has control over time, space, reality, the mind, power, etc., somehow Zola is able to, anyway. Okay. So then there's a crossed wires thing, and then the Ultron body falls to the ground, and he's like dead and deactivated. Not even the Infinity Gems are lighted up anymore, right? Okay, so yeah, I guess we defeated Ultron. It's all over, right? Oh, but then the Ultron skull comes back into play. Remember the Ultron skull? The Ultron skull that made absolutely no sense as to why it was still with them on their travels through the universe. Well, Killmonger hung on to it throughout all of this fighting, all of these battles across the dimensions as they fought Ultron. He still got the skull. And somehow Killmonger knows that he can use the skull to absorb the Ultron armor from Super Ultron onto himself. You see, this is the Ultron armor and the Infinity Stones all floating off of Super Ultron and onto Killmonger because Killmonger had the Ultron drone skull. Now you might ask yourself, as I did, how in the heck does that work? Who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because if you can believe it, the insane, megalomaniacal murderer Killmonger betrayed the Guardians of the Multiverse. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? The sudden but inevitable betrayal of the one guy on the team who we know is the villain. So now he's got the suit, he's got the stones, and now all of a sudden T'Challa's like, cousin, what are you doing? Yes, their quasi multidimensional familial connection is suddenly now an issue. Because it's an issue, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Did the Watcher never tell the team, hey, just so you guys know, this Killmonger guy, he killed the T'Challa of his universe in order to take over the kingdom of Wakanda? Just because? Anyway, so it's like, well, cousin, what are you doing? And then Killmonger's like, hey, guys, with these stones, we could fix our worlds, our lives. I could use these stones and we could like bring peace and justice to the galaxy or the multiverse or whatever. And there's a moment where I'm like, that's his plan? I mean, I'm assuming he's lying because he's Killmonger and he manipulated everybody else into taking over Wakanda in his own episode. So this is obviously BS, and they all know it's BS. It's like, Piggy, you can be with your fella again. Yeah, so he's trying to bring them on his side. It's all this stuff, and he's tempting them with all. And he's like, "Oh, Doctor Strange, I could bring back your girl and all this other stuff." And they're like, "No." He's like, "Hand over the suit, hand over the stones." And then, yeah, so there's this sudden explosion, and he's going to use all his powers. He's going to destroy everybody. But then Ultron, or I should say Vision Ultron, or sorry, no, now Arnim Zolontron. Arnim Zolontron, I like that better. Arnim Zolontron, who still has some control over the suit, which apparently is now the end-all be-all division between these two. They both now have telekinetic powers over the stones, which makes no sense because Killmonger was in possession of the stones. Why would Ultron, Azan, Zola, whatever, now be able to do that? Anyway, so they are suddenly pulling the stones between themselves in this fight to try to get control of the stones. And so Doctor Strange suddenly has a revelation. Out of the blue, he has a revelation. We were never meant to win. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you're never meant to win? We were here to separate the stones from the body. What? 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 And so Doctor Strange then uses a ton of his super duper magical power. Let me see if I can find the freeze frame here. Can I? Where is it? There it is. So Doctor Strange uses a super duper evil magical powers to create a pocket universe around Killmonger and Zola, who are still fighting over the Infinity Gems. Okay, and we'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, he creates this because we saw his pocket universe being created in his own episode where, he destroyed reality because he tried to defeat death or all that stuff. And he was trapped in his own little crystalline prison. Okay, so anyway, then all the heroes are left behind. And sun comes out. The sun will come out tomorrow. Yeah, everything's fine. Ultron's defeated. And now Doctor Strange has to watch over the pocket universe containing Killmonger and Zola fighting over the Infinity Gems from a completely different reality while still being trapped in his own pocket universe for eternity. Because the Watcher says if those two ever get out. So evil Doctor Strange is committed back to his prison of solitude to just sit there and watch over a pocket universe within a pocket universe to prevent those two characters from getting free. And the Watcher's like, you have sacrificed everything. And he said, that would imply I had something to lose. Oh, woe is me. Anyway. And he says, and besides, what are friends for? Because I guess him and the Watcher are friends now. Even though Doctor Strange is a ravenous, rapacious eater of creatures and destroyer of realities. Yeah, Watcher's a real big fan of those kind of characters. Anyway, so then they're all teleported back to the pub. They're all like, oh, no one will ever know your victory, but you have secured the lives of zillions of others in the multiverse. Once you walk through that door, you'll return to the exact moment I picked you up, and everything can continue. And so everybody goes off. And Peggy Carter, looks at this picture of Steve Rogers and is like, oh, and he's like, oh, you don't want to go back to your time. She wants to go back to her original time. And doesn't she say, I've earned it? Haven't I earned my happiness? And the Watcher is like, no, your time needs Captain Carter. And she's like, oh, fine, whatever. I'll sacrifice everything. And she goes off. But Mad Max Black Widow. Oh, well, now Mad Max Black Widow is a different story, right? Captain Carter can't violate the laws of time and space and everything else and enter a different version of things. But Black Widow's like, I am not going back to my world. There's nothing there. Everything's been destroyed. And so the Watcher's like, well, I guess I guess you can go to a different reality. So he teleports Mad Max Black Widow to a reality where the Avengers lost their Black Widow. Now, I don't know if this is the reality where Ant-Man killed everybody. I don't think it is, but I don't know. They don't really specify. But anyway, in this reality, they lost their Black Widow, and Loki is attacking the helicarrier, and Fury's on the ground about to be killed by Loki or something. And then Black Widow does a flying kick into Loki's head and then grabs the scepter and then mind controls Loki and saves the day. And Nick Fury, suddenly understanding the nature of multidimensional doppelgangers and things, says, you're not mine, Natasha. Yeah, no, Nick, she couldn't be, I don't know, an illusion put up by Loki. She couldn't be a shapeshifter of some other kind. She couldn't be some other trick of the Norse god. No. She's just not his Natasha, but she'll do. And then we get another flash of the Gamora Super Iron Man episode that we never actually saw, as we do a quick montage of where all the characters ended up again back at their homes. Thor with Jane in Vegas, and the Watcher is like, I watch, I will protect, even though you're not supposed to do anything to interfere, Watcher. but that's all you do. And the very title of this episode, what if the Watcher broke his oath? Anybody who knows the comic books know the Watcher breaks his oath every freaking day. It does the day end in Y? Yeah, well, the Watcher broke his oath and interfered. It only really made dramatic impact the first time he did it. Every instance after that is kind of like, eh. So, what did I think? I thought it was a mediocre wrap up to an overall mediocre series. There were a few, and you'd have to go back to the previous reviews to hear me talk about them. There were a few scenes or moments or overalls that were okay ish, but most of the stories were fairly boring, one note, and also contradictory in a lot of ways. I think if I had to have a favorite out of them all, probably Star Panther, because at least that episode had its own unique plot line set in the universe it was sort of copying, but also the humor and the tone of the episode really matched the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Some things didn't make any sense, like Thanos just being talked down from universal genocide. But aside from that, got to float a couple of things away, I suppose. But yeah, that was the end of this with the biggest plot hole of them all. Where was the Gamora episode? Well, maybe not. That's not the biggest plot hole, but it's one of the questions I had. And secondly, but probably more importantly, how did any of this happen if the rule is the Infinity Stones only work in the universe that they belong to? Unless I missed a line of exposition at some point, that was never explained. But they use the very fact the stones are unique to their own universe as a plot point in this show, but then it doesn't apply to... Anyway, thank you, Non-VT Rex. So Natasha's leg is broken, right? Cap punched and kicked Loki and didn't make a dent. So how is Nat's leg not broken? I don't know. I don't know. She's Mad Max Natasha. I don't know. Any question of breaking of logic or rules in this episode or in the series in general, I guess I just have to ignore, which is difficult to do because the whole idea of this series is that the continuity of events has been altered within the same continuity I'm supposed to be familiar with, where the rules are supposed to act one way, but then they just get thrown out the window because this episode or episodes previous. Yeah. Thank you again, Mark. I guess anyone can use Infinity Stones. Killmonger, what's next? Evil Lord Natasha. Yeah, here's the other thing, too. Remember how only the most powerful creatures could actually manage the Infinity Stones without, dying? Like Thanos was a Titan. The Incredible Hulk got his arm turned into a third-degree crispy critter when he used them. Iron Man lost his life when he used them. Now, synthetic being artificial intelligence, android Ultron, I guess I can let that float. But Killmonger, I mean, okay, sure, at that point he had the Black Panther, potion or serum in him or whatever, the vibranium thing, but is that enough to stop the power of the Infinity Stones on a mortal human being? I guess it is. Yeah, again, rules don't apply as long as the story gets told, even if the story makes no sense. So I'll take a minute or two here for any comments you guys might have, but then I'm going to wrap this up. John Miller, wait, can Loki be mind controlled? I don't know. It is the Mind Stone inside the scepter, and Loki is still subject to the laws of the universe. So I guess in that sense, yes, Asgardians are technically mortal. They can be killed. It's just really hard to do. So yeah, I guess he can be, I suppose. Let's see. Anything else? Jonathan Kate, the consistency in this series is breathtaking. Yeah. Like being strangled with a belt, maybe. Yeah. Oh boy. Texas Attorney General, secret agent. Hey gang, time to start from the beginning. Ha 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 ha. You're funny. Yeah. You're not Lexi Mads. You may be pretty cool, dude, but you're no Lexi Mads. You don't have that power. And yeah, Père D. Bayard. Sad hello, or I don't know. Is it a sad hello or a sad goodbye? One of the two. And non-BTA Rex. Imagine thinking Venom joining the MCU is going to hurt it. I tell you what, I haven't seen that movie. I have no plans on seeing that movie, but I've had the end scene or the credit scene explained to me in detail by others. You want to talk about lazy writing? How do we bring Venom into the MCU all of a sudden? Just have it happen, I guess. I mean, I still haven't watched Far From Home. I have seen clips all over the place on YouTube since then, but I've never actually watched Far From Home. I never had any interest. It never appealed to me. Even though Mysterio was one of my favorite Spider-Man bad guys when I was growing up, nothing about that movie made me go, I really want to see that. I kind of want to see No Way Home just because I have a very, very grim curiosity as to how they're going or what they're going to do with that. And to see, Alfred Molina back as Dr. Octopus. And I like I say, it's like things where it's like, I don't really want to look, but I kind of want to look. So, anyway, there you go, guys. That is the end of the What If animated series from Marvel Disney Plus. If they do a season 2, I hope they don't, because this was more than enough. And if this is the kind of quality in storytelling and the stories they would pick from the gigantic library of possibilities in the What If comic book series, I realize they don't have necessarily narrative access to all of the characters and situations in some of those What If comics yet. But there's plenty of material there you could draw from. And the ones that they did here, for the most part, were just pretty poor. Not very interesting stories, one note kind of things. And especially the fact, if you're going to make the whole, centerpiece of this, we're diverging from the established timeline of events in the movies. Make it make sense. Don't just pull zombies out of nowhere. Don't just character replace one role with a different character and then have events play out exactly the same. Do something drastic. The Doctor Strange one, kind of ish. I mean, at least that one stuck to a moment in the movie's continuity to diverge from, right? Just a little bit. So even though the romance between those two characters was never convincing in the movie, and I don't understand why it suddenly became such in the TV show. Anyway, I'm going to end it here before I go on any further, because I could go on for a long time. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this, such as it was. Hope you enjoyed the series. I'll probably in the next few days be archiving the episodes of this review series into its own playlist on my channel, because I tend to do that when I'm finished with a particular series. If you'd like to hear from me next, you can find me, here tomorrow night, Thursday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for another episode of TED Excellence, where I take a look at off-brand TED Talks. I am still debating whether or not I'm going to actually review the Lizzo TED Talk. I am seriously conflicted about doing this because I've done some TEDx talks and TED Talks before that ended up being absolute wastes of time ultimately, but at least I had the idea that it might not be before I did them. It's Lizzo discussing the history of twerking. I really, we'll see. Anyway, everyone, again, thank you for joining me. Hope you all have a good rest of your Wednesday. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.